Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Liu. I am a mental fitness coach. Thank you so much for joining me on this day 10 of this video series on building mental fitness. Yesterday, I continued to talk about three more accomplice saboteurs, namely the hyper-rational, the hyper-vigilant, and the restless. Now, today, I'm going to finish off talking about the saboteurs with the last two accomplice saboteurs, which are the controller and the avoider. Now, I'm talking about these saboteurs in this order because I find that there is, at least in my opinion, there is a big correlation with the 9 types in the Enneagram personality test. So this helps me to remember the saboteurs, and therefore I'm talking about it in this order. And so for those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram, if you have any of your own observations or thoughts, reflections, please, I would love to hear them in your comments. And so today I'm going to talk about the type 8 and type 9, I believe the saboteurs that are correlated with the Enneagram. And so type 8, or the saboteur, is called the controller. Now, you can tell by the name, the controller is someone who loves to control situations, who has no trouble usually making a decision or telling people what to do, or kind of leading, who has a very set mind or clear mind about how they want things to be done. And sometimes this may even be kind of linked to the traditional leader type, right? Someone who is not afraid to tell people what to do. And this, to some extent, is a great quality. It can be very useful in certain professions, certain roles. However, again, if we take it to an extreme, just like all the saboteurs do, what happens is you're trying to control everything, even control things when it's not in your place to control it. Or it would be better for you to actually empower others to do things their way. But someone with a very strong controller saboteur would have a very difficult time doing that. So they have a difficult time letting go, kind of difficult time letting other people do things their way because they believe that the way they do it is the best way. And so you can see how when you do that to an extreme, especially in your personal relationships, this could create some friction, right? Because a lot of times people don't like to be told what to do, right? So that causes some difficulties it could cause difficulties in relationships. And then for the person themselves, what kind of feelings does it usually create? Now think about it. Someone who always needs things to be done their way, they could have a lot of stress and anxiety when things don't go their way, or irritation, annoyance, anytime that things don't go the way that they want it to be done, or just are not done in the way that they want to be done. And how it could limit their potential is, like to some degree, if you're a leader, you have this, inherent strength in making decisions and leading people. That's great. But when you take it to an extreme, you kind of don't allow the people that you're leading to really develop, to be empowered, to feel like they can have their own voices heard. So a lot of times this actually could really hinder you in progressing even further in your career. All right, so that's the controller. Now, the next one, or the last one that I'm going to talk about, is called the avoider. This is almost like very different from the controller. So this is someone who doesn't need things to be done their way. They're so easygoing. They could do things, have things in any way. And and the reason it's called the avoider is because this person, or someone with an avoider saboteur, oftentimes what they avoid is kind of difficult situations, difficult conversations, especially conflicts in relationships. They really try to avoid those situations. So think about it. Someone who is like that, at the essence, they're really nice, easygoing people, like really even keeled, is not going to be some of that friend that tells you, oh, I feel this way because you did this. They're never going to bring up that kind of conversation. And even if they feel hurt or they feel bad about a situation or someone who did something to them, they kind of brush it aside or put it under a rug and kind of let it go. So they avoid the conversation, the difficult conversation. So, on the surface, if you have a friend like that, it could be really easy to be with them. But then how it could hurt that person is because they do still have feelings. They do get hurt. They do have negative emotions. And so then when they always bottle it up, there is no outlet for them to let it out. And also it could, even though on the surface you're avoiding these conflicts in relationships, but a lot of relationships, they could actually be enhanced by bringing up conflicts or differences and working them out in a productive way. But someone with an avoider saboteur would not do that. So they just say, well, I'll just forget that it even happened and pretend like, it never happened. And then let's move on. And so it could actually limit you in how deep your relationships can go. Right. And especially, let's say in romantic relationships, because there are inevitably going to be differences and conflicts. And so it's all about how do you resolve them? So if you're never resolving them, then how do you really get to know someone on a very deep level? Right. And for themselves, I already talked about, so I talked a lot about kind of avoiding personal conflicts, but what they're also avoiding is kind of difficult tasks. So they're basically not want to deal with anything that is too difficult. So they kind of stay in their routine, do what is easy, do what is comfortable. And so they're the type of people, could be the typical procrastinator when something is like really difficult, this big project or something that's like just so big that they just say, all right, I'll do it later. Like almost like hoping that the later means that thing will just not exist anymore. Right. So how this could hurt them is, in terms of feelings, even though they want to avoid that difficult feeling, but actually a lot of times it causes a lot of shame, a lot of kind of disappointment in themselves because they just can't bring themselves to do this difficult task. So that's how it creates the negative feelings. And I already talked about the impact, potential impact on relationship, and also, in their bringing up or living up to their true potential. How this could hurt is, if you're constantly avoiding the thing that's difficult, because that's the thing that's going to help you grow, right? To get out of your comfort zone. So if they constantly avoid this, then they're actually missing out a lot of opportunities to really push themselves to fulfill their true potential. All right, so that was the last two accomplice saboteurs, the controller and the avoider. So I hoped you liked this series, this few episodes talking about the different accomplice saboteurs. I'm going to link the test again. This is a free test, just takes 5 minutes. You can find out your top accomplice saboteurs and just a little bit about any test that you take. Okay, first of all, don't take it as the ultimate truth. Any test I see that you can take, it's just a piece of information. It's another data point, right? So that can give you some information, potentially give you some insight to once you know a little bit more about yourself, then you can do something about it if you want to. So again, these saboteurs, this is that kind of a test. If you get the test results and you read the descriptions or you watch these videos on what these saboteurs are and they don't resonate at all, then that might not be you. It could just be the way that you took the test. And I've had clients who came up with kind of the top 3 saboteurs, and they say, yeah, I can see that, but you know what, actually the 4th and the 5th I feel has more impact in my life and in my work. So if that's the case, then work on those saboteurs, right? So, and yeah, so that's one thing. And then the other, so I correlate these saboteurs to the Enneagram test, but actually I wasn't that familiar with the Enneagram before I started this positive intelligence methodology. But once I learned about the saboteurs, I said, oh yeah, I remember in the Enneagram test. But one test that I do really believe in and I still use with a lot of my clients is called the Strength Finder. And I can give you a link down below as well. This one is not quite a free test. You have to pay a little bit, but it gives you, so there are 34 strength themes that have been discovered using, this is also very science-based, using over 2 million people. This is called the Clifton Strength Finder. And you can take a test to find out your top 5 strengths. And I don't have time to talk about the correlation of the Strength Finder with the saboteurs, but I actually also see a lot of correlation between the Strength Finder and the saboteurs. And how they relate. Again, it's about the Strength Finder is saying, this is your natural strength. And this is something that you're already naturally very good at. And then what the saboteur does is takes that strength to an extreme and turns it into a weakness. So that's how those two are related. So I'll stop it here for today. And, actually, let me just emphasize one more point about these saboteurs. The reason we talk about them is to give you some insight of what your saboteurs may be, so that you have an opportunity to catch them when they're very active, when they're doing their work and giving you these negative emotions. So what you do then is to do some PQ reps I talked about in some previous sessions, is basically 10 seconds of focusing your attention on a physical sensation. So by doing that, you're diffusing the power, you're weakening the power of these saboteurs. So give that a try. And tomorrow I'll start talking about what is the other part of us, which is the sage. This is the really cool part, because this is the powerful part of you. This is a true part of you. It's your essence. And when you can go from that part, you can really, truly be invincible and do anything. And so I'll start getting into that. All right. Thank you so much for watching. And I would love to hear your comments and questions, what you want to hear more of. And again, I really want to thank you for being here. And I hope to see you again tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye. Take care.